A poor cleaning lady blew bubbles to calm a boy having a meltdown, unaware that the millionaire CEO was watching, and what he did surprised the entire company. Before we get into the story, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. And at the end, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Enjoy! The gleaming marble floors of the Langston Tower lobby reflected the harsh, fluorescent lights like a polished mirror, echoing the sterile efficiency of the corporate empire it housed. It was mid-morning, and the usual bustle of suited executives, hurried interns, and clicking heels filled the air. Ursula Hayes, a fair-skinned woman with cascading blonde hair tied back in a practical ponytail, pushed her cleaning cart through the fray, her blue uniform blending into the background like an afterthought. At 32, Ursula had spent the last 5 years in roles like this, scrubbing away the remnants of other people's lives, invisible to the world of power suits and boardroom deals. She hummed softly to herself, a habit from her childhood days in foster care, where small joys like bubbles in the bath had been her escape from chaos. Today felt no different. She wiped down a brass railing, her mind wandering to her modest apartment and the stack of bills waiting on the kitchen table. Dreams of opening a daycare for kids from broken homes simmered in the back of her thoughts, but reality kept them at bay. Then, a piercing wail shattered the lobby's rhythm. Ursula froze, bucket in hand, as heads turned toward the source. A small boy, no older than 7, huddled on the floor near the elevators. He rocked back and forth, fists clenched, face twisted in raw anguish. His cries escalated into screams, drawing murmurs from the crowd. "He's at it again," whispered a receptionist to a security guard, her voice laced with pity and impatience. "Poor kid. Where's the nanny?" The guard shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Langston's been notified. Best not to interfere." People skirted around the boy like he was a live wire, their eyes averted. No one dared approach. Ursula watched, her heart twisting. The boy's blonde hair, disheveled and damp with sweat, reminded her of the vulnerable children she'd seen in her volunteer shifts at local shelters. Without thinking, she set down her mop and knelt a few feet away, careful not to invade his space. "Hey there, little one," she said softly, her voice a gentle melody amid the storm. "Looks like a tough day. Want to see something magic?" The boy, Oliver, though she didn't know his name yet, didn't respond, his sobs choking the air. Ursula reached into her apron pocket, pulling out a small, travel-sized bottle of dish soap she'd mixed with water earlier for stubborn stains. She dipped a makeshift wand, a twisted pipe cleaner, into the solution and blew gently. A shimmering bubble emerged, iridescent and fragile, floating toward him like a whisper from another world. Oliver's rocking slowed. His wide, tear-streaked eyes followed the bubble as it danced in the air currents, catching the light in rainbows. Ursula blew another, then another, each one larger and more deliberate. The lobby fell silent, the crowd now watching in stunned curiosity. Oliver's breathing evened out, his fists unclenching as he reached tentatively for a bubble. It popped on his fingertip with a soft, harmless burst, eliciting a tiny gasp, not of fear, but wonder. Up in the penthouse office on the 45th floor, Frederick Langston stared at his security monitors, his coffee forgotten. At 40, Frederick was the epitome of corporate success. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sharp features framed by neatly styled blonde hair. His dark suit screamed authority, but his eyes, stormy blue, betrayed the exhaustion of a man carrying invisible weights. As CEO of Langston Enterprises, a tech conglomerate worth billions, he juggled mergers and market shares with ruthless precision. But nothing prepared him for the chaos of single fatherhood. Oliver's meltdowns had become a grim routine since the car accident 2 years ago. Frederick's wife, Elena, had been driving home from a school event when a drunk driver slammed into them. Elena didn't survive. Oliver, strapped in the back, emerged physically unscathed but emotionally shattered. Therapy sessions, medications, specialized nannies. Frederick had thrown everything at it, but the episodes persisted, triggered by the slightest stress. Today, it was a delayed nanny pickup after a doctor's appointment. Frederick had been in a high-stakes video call when the alert pinged. Lobby disturbance. Your son. His heart plummeted as he switched to the cameras. There was Oliver, unraveling in public view, a vulnerability Frederick hated exposing. But then, Bubbles? He leaned closer, incredulous. A cleaning woman, blonde, unassuming, sat on the floor, blowing soap spheres that seemed to weave a spell over his son. Oliver wasn't screaming anymore. He was watching, transfixed. Frederick's assistant burst in. "Sir, the investors are waiting." "Not now!" Frederick snapped, already bolting from his desk. He ignored the elevator's sluggish ping, opting for the stairs, taking them two at a time. His mind raced. Who was this woman? How had she done what experts couldn't? By the time he reached the lobby, sweat beading on his forehead, the scene unfolded like a miracle. Oliver sat cross-legged, a faint smile tugging at his lips as another bubble drifted by. Ursula, oblivious to the growing audience, blew one more, her focus solely on the boy. "See? They're like little dreams," she murmured. "Light and free, but strong enough to float." Frederick halted at the edge of the crowd, breath ragged. His son, his broken, beautiful boy, was calm. No restraints, no sedatives, just Bubbles. The security guard spotted him. "Mr. Langston, we were about to—" Frederick raised a hand, silencing him. He stepped forward, his polished shoes echoing softly. Ursula sensed the shift, turning slowly. Her green eyes widened as she recognized him, the face from company posters, the untouchable CEO. She scrambled to her feet, apron askew. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to overstep. He just seemed so upset and no one was helping. I didn't touch him, I swear. Just the bubbles." Frederick knelt beside Oliver, his voice a whisper. "Buddy? You okay?" Oliver nodded, eyes still on a lingering bubble. "The lady made magic, Dad. It popped, but it was pretty." Frederick looked up at Ursula, his expression a mix of gratitude and bewilderment. "How? He usually takes hours to come down from one of these. Specialists, meds. Nothing works like this." Ursula shrugged, tucking the bottle away. "Sometimes kids just need a distraction that's quiet and kind. No big words or rules. Bubbles don't judge, they just float." The crowd murmured, some snapping discreet photos. Frederick stood, extending a hand. "Frederick Langston. And you are?" "Ursula Hayes," she replied, shaking it firmly despite her nerves. "Just the cleaner. Outsourced. Morning shift." He glanced at Oliver, who was now blowing a tentative bubble himself. A real smile, rare as a comet, lit the boy's face. Frederick's world tilted. In that moment, amid the corporate chaos, he saw possibility. "Miss Hayes, I'd like to speak with you, privately. My office?" Ursula's pulse quickened. Was she in trouble? Fired for meddling? But Oliver's soft laugh sealed it. "Sure, but only if it's quick. I have floors to mop." As they headed to the elevators, Frederick glanced back at his son, now under the nanny's belated care. For the first time in years, hope flickered in his chest. Fragile as a soap bubble, but undeniably real. Little did Ursula know, this simple act of kindness was about to upend her invisible life, drawing her into a world of wealth, heartbreak, and unexpected family. The lobby miracle was just the beginning. The elevator doors slid shut with a soft chime, sealing Ursula and Frederick in a cocoon of polished steel and mirrored walls. Ursula clutched her cleaning rag like a talisman, her reflection staring back. A simple woman in a rumpled uniform, dwarfed by the towering CEO whose presence seemed to command the very air. Frederick punched the button for the top floor, his fingers lingering as if buying time. The ascent was silent at first, broken only by the hum of machinery, but Ursula's mind whirled. What could a man like him want with her? A reprimand for meddling? Or worse, some corporate liability nonsense? "Thank you," Frederick said finally, his voice low and gravelly, cutting through the tension like a blade. "For what you did down there. Oliver. He's not been the same since the accident." Ursula glanced at him, noting the lines etched around his eyes, marks of sleepless nights and buried grief. "No need to thank me, Mr. Langston. Kids have a way of pulling at your heartstrings. I just did what felt right." The doors opened onto the executive suite, a realm of opulence that made Ursula's breath catch. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a panoramic view of the city skyline, sunlight glinting off skyscrapers like diamonds in a crown. Dark mahogany desks, abstract art worth more than her yearly salary, and a silence so profound it felt expensive. Frederick gestured to a plush leather armchair opposite his desk, but Ursula perched on the edge, as if ready to flee back to her mop and bucket. "Call me Frederick," he said, sinking into his chair with the ease of someone born to power. He steepled his fingers, studying her. "Oliver's 7. His mother, my wife, died 2 years ago in a car crash. Drunk driver. Oliver was in the back seat. He saw it all. Since then, the meltdowns, they're unpredictable. We've tried everything. Therapists, specialists, medications. Nothing sticks. Until today. You calmed him in minutes with bubbles." Ursula shifted, uncomfortable under his intense gaze. "I'm no expert, sir, Frederick. I volunteer at shelters sometimes, helping kids who've had rough starts. Bubbles are just a trick I picked up. They're simple, no pressure. Kids respond to that." He leaned forward, elbows on the desk, his blonde hair catching the light like spun gold. "That's exactly why I'm asking you here. I don't want another expert analyzing him. I want someone who sees him, not the problem." "Ursula, would you consider spending time with Oliver? Not as a nanny or therapist, just you. A few hours a week, whatever you can spare." Her eyes widened, a laugh bubbling up before she could stop it. Nervous, incredulous. "Me? Spend time with your son? Frederick, look at me. I'm a cleaner. I live in a shoebox apartment, eat ramen for dinner most nights. What could I possibly offer a kid like him, growing up in all this?" She waved a hand at the lavish office, the city sprawling below like a conquered kingdom. Frederick's expression softened, a flicker of vulnerability cracking his CEO facade. "You offered kindness when no one else would. No pity, no fear, just presence." Oliver smiled today, Ursula. A real smile. "I haven't seen that in months." He paused, his voice dropping. "I'm not blind to the differences. But maybe that's what he needs. Someone real, unpolished by all this." He gestured vaguely at his surroundings, as if the wealth were a cage. Ursula's mind flashed to her past, shuffled between foster homes, learning early that connection was fleeting but precious. She'd lost a pregnancy once, years ago, to complications, a secret scar that made her ache for lost children like Oliver. And if I say yes, what would that look like? Twice a week to start, Wednesdays and Saturdays afternoons, at the penthouse. No strings, no formal contract, just time. Play, talk, whatever feels right. I'd compensate you, of course, generously. She shook her head. Not about money. If I do this, it's for him. But conditions. No hovering nannies or cameras. Trust me or don't bother. And if Oliver doesn't want me around, I'm gone. No hard feelings. Frederick nodded without hesitation, a spark of respect in his eyes. Agreed. All of it. He extended his hand across the desk, sealing the deal with a firm shake. Her palm felt small in his, calloused from labor against his smooth grip, but the connection hummed with possibility. As Ursula rode the elevator back down, her heart pounded with a mix of excitement and dread. What had she gotten into? A world of penthouses and private pain, far from her mop-filled mornings. But Oliver's tiny laugh echoed in her memory, a fragile thread pulling her forward. Little did she know, this unconventional offer was the first step toward weaving their lives together, one bubble at a time. By Wednesday afternoon, Ursula stood before the gleaming doors of Frederick's penthouse building. Her casual jeans and sweater, a stark contrast to the uniformed doorman eyeing her skeptically. "Ursula Hayes, here for Oliver Langston," she said, flashing her ID. After a quick call upstairs, he ushered her into the private elevator, which whisked her to the top floor. The doors opened directly into the penthouse, a sprawling expanse of modern minimalism, with white marble floors, soaring ceilings, and walls of glass overlooking the bustling city below. It screamed luxury, but felt oddly cold, like a showroom untouched by life. Frederick greeted her at the entrance, his suit jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up to reveal toned forearms. "Ursula, thank you for coming. Oliver's in his room. He's excited in his way." She followed him down a hallway lined with abstract paintings, her sneakers squeaking faintly on the polished stone. Oliver's room was a boy's paradise, a bed shaped like a race car, shelves of neatly arranged toys, books color-coded like a library. But the perfection felt sterile, no scattered socks or crayon marks to hint at chaos. Oliver sat on the floor, hugging his knees, eyes lighting up when he saw her. "Bubble lady," he exclaimed, a shy smile breaking through. Ursula knelt, pulling the soap bottle from her bag. "Hey, champ! Ready for some magic?" What followed was an hour of simple wonders, bubbles floating like dreams, stories whispered about imaginary worlds where sadness popped away. Frederick watched from the doorway, unseen, his chest tightening with unspoken gratitude. As Ursula left that evening, promising to return Saturday, she felt a warmth she hadn't known in years, a sense of purpose blooming amid the unexpected. But shadows loomed. Victoria Harrington, Oliver's godmother and a fixture in high society, had already heard whispers of the cleaning lady meddling in family affairs. Her disapproval simmered, ready to boil over, threatening the fragile bond just beginning to form. Yet for now, in the quiet aftermath, hope lingered like an iridescent sphere, delicate but defiant. The quiet aftermath of that first Wednesday visit stretched into Saturday like a held breath, hope's delicate bubble hovering in the penthouse air. Ursula arrived promptly at noon, her knock echoing through the vast space with a tentative rhythm. Frederick opened the door himself, his usual suit traded for a casual button-down, though the fabric still screamed bespoke tailoring. "Ursula," he greeted, a subtle warmth in his tone that hadn't been there before. "Oliver's been asking about you all morning. Something about more magic." She smiled, stepping inside with her bag slung over one shoulder. "Nothing fancy, just a few toys scavenged from thrift stores and that trusty soap bottle." The penthouse felt less intimidating this time, the sunlight streaming through the glass walls casting golden pools on the floor. Oliver bounded from the hallway, his small frame vibrating with energy. "Ursula, can we do bubbles again? But bigger ones." "Absolutely, champ," she replied, ruffling his blonde hair gently. "But first, let's explore your kingdom here. Show me around." Oliver led her to his room, chattering about his favorite toys, a robotic dinosaur that roared on command and a puzzle of the solar system. Ursula sat on the rug, listening intently as he demonstrated each one, her questions drawing out details he'd never shared with the parade of nannies. Frederick lingered in the doorway again, ostensibly reviewing emails on his phone, but his eyes kept drifting to the scene. The room, once a pristine exhibit, now buzzed with life. Laughter pealing as Oliver failed hilariously at stacking blocks. Ursula's encouraging cheers filling the voids. As the afternoon unfolded, Ursula suggested a pretend picnic. "No real food needed," she explained, spreading a blanket from Oliver's bed across the floor. "We make it up. What's your dream menu?" Oliver's eyes widened. "Pizza with candy toppings, and ice cream sandwiches made of clouds." Ursula laughed, a sound like wind chimes in the sterile space. "Perfect. I'll have spaghetti made from rainbows and juice from shooting stars." They ate with exaggerated gusto, miming bites and slurps, the absurdity sparking giggles that echoed down the halls. She pulled out her phone, cueing a playlist of soft, whimsical tunes, acoustic guitars and gentle vocals that wrapped the room in coziness. Oliver swayed to the music, his guarded posture melting away, shoulders relaxing for the first time Frederick could recall. From his vantage, Frederick felt a pang deep in his chest, sharp as a forgotten wound reopening. The penthouse had been a mausoleum since Elena's death, echoes of her absence in every empty chair, every silent dinner. He'd buried himself in work, outsourcing Oliver's care to professionals who treated the boy like a case study. But here, with Ursula's unassuming magic, the air hummed with vitality. Laughter bounced off the walls, transforming the cold minimalism into something resembling a home. He slipped away quietly, not wanting to intrude, but the warmth seeped into him like sunlight through cracks. As the picnic wound down, Oliver yawned, contentedly leaning against Ursula. "This was fun. Can we do it every time?" "Deal," she promised, packing up. Frederick reappeared then, offering coffee in the kitchen, a sleek expanse of granite and stainless steel. "You've got a gift," he said, handing her a mug. "He's different with you, present." Ursula sipped, shrugging modestly. "Kids sense when you're real with them. No agendas." Their conversation flowed easily, snippets of her dreams for a daycare, his guarded admissions about the toll of CEO life. But the idyll was shattered with the sharp click of heels in the foyer. Victoria Harrington swept in unannounced, her designer coat swirling like a storm cloud. Tall and impeccably coiffed, with sharp features and eyes like polished steel, she was Elena's oldest friend and Oliver's godmother, a socialite whose influence in elite circles rivaled Frederick's in business. "Nathan, Frederick," she corrected, with a saccharine smile, air kissing his cheeks. Her gaze landed on Ursula, narrowing. "And who is this?" "Ursula Hayes," Frederick introduced evenly. "She's spending time with Oliver. It's helping." Victoria's laugh was a brittle chime. "Spending time? With the cleaning lady? Darling, I heard rumors, but I thought it was a joke. Is this some new therapy fad?" Ursula stiffened, but held her tongue as Oliver peeked from the hallway, sensing the tension. Frederick's jaw tightened. "Victoria." Ursula calmed Oliver during a meltdown when no one else could. "She's here because I asked her to be." The godmother's expression soured, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "Oh, please. A gold digger sniffing around a widower and his vulnerable child? Classic. Elena would be appalled. Her son exposed to this." She waved dismissively at Ursula's casual attire. Frederick stepped between them, his voice a low thunder. "Enough. Ursula has brought more joy to this house in days than your suitable nannies have in months." Oliver laughed today. Laughed. "If you can't see that, perhaps you should leave." Victoria's cheeks flushed, but she spun on her heel. "You're blinded by grief, Frederick. This will end in disaster. Mark my words." The door slammed behind her, leaving a chill in her wake. Ursula exhaled shakily. "I should go. I don't want to cause trouble." "No," Frederick insisted, his eyes fierce. "You stay. She doesn't dictate this family." Oliver tugged at Ursula's hand then, pulling her back to the room for one last bubble. As they played, the warmth returned, defiant against the intrusion. Frederick watched, resolve hardening. Victoria's barbs had stung, but they also clarified. This budding connection was worth protecting. By evening, as Ursula departed, the penthouse felt irrevocably changed, alive with echoes of joy. Yet Victoria's warning lingered like a shadow, hinting at storms ahead. Frederick, along with his thoughts, pondered a gesture of thanks, something to bridge the gap between their worlds. A dinner, perhaps, simple, sincere. Little did he know, it would ignite sparks neither could ignore. Little did Frederick know, that gesture, a simple dinner invitation, would indeed ignite sparks, flickering embers of connection amid the gathering clouds of doubt sown by Victoria's venom. The following Friday, as the city lights began to twinkle like distant stars against the encroaching dusk, Frederick paced his office, phone in hand, drafting and deleting messages with uncharacteristic hesitation. Ursula, as a thank you for your time with Oliver, I'd like to invite you to dinner tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. Frederick. Too formal. Delete. Dinner tomorrow? To say thanks. Let me know. Too casual. Finally, he settled on something in between. Ursula, Oliver, and I would appreciate your company at dinner tomorrow night. A proper thank you. 8 p.m. at the penthouse. He hit send before second thoughts could intervene. Ursula's reply came swiftly, laced with her trademark humor. Dinner with the boss? As long as it's not ramen, I'm in. But if there are too many forks, I might bolt. Frederick chuckled alone in the vast room, the sound foreign in his solitude. She had a way of deflating his world of pretense. Saturday arrived with a crisp autumn chill, the penthouse kitchen alive with the aromas of seared scallops and herb-infused risotto, catered, of course. But Frederick had dismissed the chef early, preferring privacy. Oliver was tucked in bed by 7, his eyelids heavy from an afternoon of park adventures Frederick had insisted on, hoping to tire him out. The boy had chattered endlessly about Ursula's latest bubble tricks, his face alight with a joy that twisted Frederick's heart. Now, as the clock ticked toward 8, Frederick adjusted his collar in the mirror, opting for a navy shirt and slacks, elegant but approachable. Vulnerability gnawed at him. Dinners like this hadn't featured in his life since Elena. The elevator chimed, and Ursula stepped out, a vision in a simple black dress that hugged her curves modestly, her blonde hair loose in waves that caught the light. She clutched a small clutch, her green eyes wide as she took in the candlelit dining room. A table set for 2, with crystal stemware, fresh orchids, and soft jazz humming from hidden speakers. Wow, she breathed, a nervous laugh escaping. This is fancy. I feel like I should have brought a crown or something. Frederick smiled, pulling out her chair with a gentle flourish. You look beautiful, and no crowns required, just you. His words hung sincere, drawing a blush to her cheeks. They sat, the initial silence broken by the clink of wine glasses. A crisp Chardonnay he'd selected carefully. To bubbles, he toasted, and the miracles they bring. Ursula clinked back, sipping tentatively. To Oliver. He's the real magic here. Conversation flowed haltingly at first, the awkwardness of worlds colliding evident in her glances at the opulent surroundings. But as the first course arrived, delicate foie gras on toasted brioche, Ursula poked at it curiously. What is this? Tastes like fancy butter with a side of mystery, Frederick laughed, a genuine bark that surprised even him. Foie gras? Not your thing? She wrinkled her nose playfully. My palate's more burgers and fries. But I'll try anything once. Her honesty disarmed him, peeling back layers of his guarded demeanor. Over the main course, a perfectly grilled filet mignon with truffle reduction, they delved deeper. Frederick shared fragments of his rise, from a modest upbringing to building Langston Enterprises into a tech behemoth. the isolation of success weighing heavily. "It's all numbers and negotiations," he admitted. "But Oliver, he's the one thing that matters, and I've failed him too often." Ursula set down her fork, her gaze steady. "You're not failing. You're trying. That's more than some dads do." She paused, vulnerability mirroring his. "My dream? Opening a daycare. For kids like I was, the foster system bounces you around, leaves scars. I want a place where they feel seen, safe. Bubbles optional, but encouraged." Frederick leaned in, captivated by her passion. "Why not pursue it? With your gift—" "Money," she interjected with a wry smile. "Dreams cost. Cleaning pays the bills, barely." Their eyes locked, a current humming between them, charged with unspoken possibilities. The air thickened, the jazz swelling to a crescendo, when a small voice pierced the moment. "Dad?" Oliver padded into the room, pajamas rumpled, rubbing his eyes. "I can't sleep." "Heard music." Frederick rose, a mix of frustration and fondness. "Buddy, it's bedtime. Ursula and I—" But Oliver's gaze fixed on Ursula, brightening. "Bubble lady. Can we make cookies? You promised last time. Ones with chocolate chips that don't burn." Ursula glanced at Frederick, reading his torn expression, the interrupted intimacy versus his son's plea. She stood, rolling up her sleeves. "How about it? Dessert detour. Cookies beat fancy plates any day." Frederick hesitated, then nodded, the tension easing into a reluctant grin. "All right, but quick. No mess. Who am I kidding?" The kitchen transformed into a whirlwind of flour and laughter. Oliver stood on a stool, Ursula guiding his hands to mix dough, Frederick fetching ingredients with unpracticed eagerness. "More chips," Oliver demanded, dumping a handful that scattered like confetti. Ursula's peals of laughter rang out as she salvaged the batch, her dress dusted white, blonde strands escaping to frame her face. Frederick watched, mesmerized, the domestic chaos a balm to his structured soul. For a moment, it felt like family, raw and real. As the cookies baked, filling the air with sweet warmth, Oliver yawned between bites of dough. "This is the best night," he murmured, leaning into Ursula. Frederick carried him to bed soon after, the boy whispering, "Don't let her go, Dad." Back in the kitchen, alone now, Frederick poured fresh wine. "Sorry for the interruption, but thank you for rolling with it." Ursula wiped her hands, eyes sparkling. "No apology needed. That's life. Messy, sweet, like these cookies." Their fingers brushed as he passed her a glass, a spark igniting, pulling them closer. The conversation resumed, dreams weaving with vulnerabilities. Her lost pregnancy, a shadow from her past, his guilt over Elena's accident, the drunk driver who'd stolen their future. "I buried myself in work," he confessed, voice raw. "Forgot how to live." "And I hid in routines," she echoed, afraid to dream big. In that vulnerable exchange, barriers crumbled. Frederick reached across the counter, his hand covering hers, warm, tentative. "Ursula, you've brought life back here. To Oliver. To me." Her breath caught, the air electric. But as the clock struck 11, she pulled back gently. "I should go. Early shift tomorrow." He walked her to the elevator, the goodbye lingering. "Until Wednesday?" "Until then." The doors closed, leaving Frederick in the quiet penthouse, heart racing with newfound possibility. Yet, unbeknownst to them, paparazzi lenses had captured her arrival, grainy photos already circulating in tabloid circles, fueled by Victoria's whispers to concerned friends. The scandal brewed, a storm cloud on the horizon, threatening to burst and wash away this fragile bloom. For now, though, dreams lingered in the scent of baked cookies, a promise of more to come. The promise of more hung in the air, like the lingering scent of chocolate chip cookies, warm and inviting, as Ursula descended in the elevator that Saturday night. She touched her fingers where Frederick's had brushed hers, a fleeting spark that left her both exhilarated and unsettled. For the first time in years, life felt expansive, full of potential beyond the drudgery of dawn shifts and solitary evenings. Frederick, too, stood in the quiet penthouse, staring at the city lights below, a rare smile playing on his lips. Oliver's whispered plea echoed in his mind. "Don't let her go, Dad." He wouldn't. But forces beyond their control were already conspiring, shadows lengthening in the glow of newfound connection. Sunday dawned gray and overcast, the city shrouded in a mist that mirrored the storm about to break. Ursula woke to her phone buzzing incessantly, notifications piling up like accusations. Bleary-eyed, she scrolled through messages from coworkers. "Ursula, you okay? Saw the news." Her stomach dropped as she opened a browser, typing her name with trembling fingers. The headlines assaulted her like slaps. CEO's secret affair with cleaning lady, gold digger alert. From mop to millionaire, Langston's low-class romance exposed. Photos splashed across tabloid sites. Grainy shots of her arriving at the penthouse in her black dress, looking nervous under the doorman's gaze, juxtaposed with Frederick's polished headshots and Oliver's innocent school pictures. The articles were vicious, painting her as a scheming opportunist preying on a grieving widower and his vulnerable son. Sources close to the family, one claimed, clearly Victoria's handiwork, whispered of Ursula's calculated kindness, using bubbles as a ploy to worm her way into wealth. Social media amplified the venom. Comments flooded in, anonymous barbs like, "Trash taking out the trash?" "No, wait, she's the trash." "Poor kid, losing his mom and now this homewrecker." Ursula's chest tightened, tears blurring the screen. She wasn't just humiliated. She was eviscerated, her quiet life dissected for clicks and scandal. By midday, the story had gone viral, trending under hashtags like "Use Langston Lover" and "Gold Digger Gate." Reporters camped outside her modest apartment building, cameras flashing as she peeked through the curtains. Her phone rang off the hook. Unknown numbers, voicemails from journalists probing for dirt. One message from a coworker stung deepest. "Didn't peg you for that type, Urs. Hope the money's worth it." She hurled the phone across the room, sinking to the floor in sobs. How had a simple act of kindness twisted into this nightmare? Frederick's world was one of glass towers, hers, fragile as the bubbles she blew. Colliding with them had shattered everything. Frederick learned of the frenzy mid-morning, his assistant bursting into his home office with a tablet thrust forward. "Sir, you need to see this." His face paled as he scrolled, fury boiling beneath the shock. "This is bullshit," he growled, dialing Ursula immediately. No answer. He tried again, pacing like a caged lion. Oliver, sensing the tension, hovered nearby. "Dad, what's wrong?" "Nothing, buddy, just work stuff." But the lie tasted bitter. Frederick fired off texts. "Ursula, ignore the noise, we'll fix this." Silence. By afternoon, he'd mobilized his PR team, issuing denials and threats of lawsuits. But the damage spread like wildfire. Board members called, voices laced with concern or opportunism. "Frederick, this could tank stock prices. Think of the company." Victoria's smug voicemail arrived last. "I warned you. Now clean up your mess." Ursula, barricaded in her apartment, weighed her options through tear-streaked eyes. Stay, and the scandal would devour Oliver. Playground taunts, paparazzi hounding his every step. Frederick's reputation, his empire, risked crumbling under the weight of association with the help. She imagined the headlines escalating. Langston's son traumatized by father's fling. No, she couldn't be the villain in their story. By evening, resolve hardened. She'd vanish, slip away to a distant city where no one knew her name. It tore her apart, Oliver's trusting eyes, Frederick's tentative touch. But love, she reasoned, sometimes meant sacrifice. As night fell, she packed a single suitcase, essentials, a few photos from shelter kids, and the soap bottle, a talisman of what was lost. Sitting at her rickety kitchen table, she penned the letter, tears smudging the ink. Dear Oliver, when I first blew those bubbles in the lobby, I saw a brave boy fighting big storms. You gave me more than you'll ever know. Laughter, hope, a glimpse of family. But some grown-up troubles mean I have to go away for a while. Remember, bubbles pop, but new ones always form. Keep smiling, champ. I'll send invisible ones on the wind. With all my love, Ursula. P.S. Your drawing from last week? It's coming with me, my treasure. She sealed it, addressing an envelope to the penthouse, then slipped out under the cover of darkness. A cab to the bus station, a ticket to a nondescript town hours away. Gone by dawn. No forwarding address, phone silenced and left behind. The city lights faded in the rear view, each mile a dagger to her heart. Frederick's world unraveled in her absence. Oliver asked her constantly, "Where's Ursula? It's Wednesday soon." Frederick's assurances rang hollow. She's busy, but she'll be back. As the boys' meltdowns returned, fiercer than before. Sleepless nights blurred into frantic days. Frederick scoured her apartment, empty. Called mutual contacts, clueless. Even hired a private investigator. But Ursula had vanished like mist, leaving only the letter, delivered anonymously to the penthouse mailbox. He read it to Oliver that evening, voice cracking. The boy's face crumpled. She left? Like Mom. Sobs racked his small body as Frederick held him, guilt crashing like waves. No, buddy. She'll come back, I promise. But doubt gnawed. The scandal's fallout intensified. Stocks dipped. Bored murmurs grew. Victoria's "I told you so" calls incessant. Yet amid the chaos, anger fueled determination. This wasn't a coincidence. It reeked of sabotage. Frederick vowed to uncover the truth, starting with the sources and shadowy photographers. Richard Ellis, a scheming board member with eyes on his throne, lurked in the periphery, unaware his machinations were about to unravel. The departure was a wound, but from its depths, reunion's seed took root, promising a reckoning. The reckoning dawned with the cold precision of a corporate takedown. Frederick's vow hardening into action amid the ruins of his fractured home. Weeks blurred into a relentless pursuit. The penthouse a hollow shell echoing Oliver's quiet despair. Meals untouched, bubbles blown alone in his room. Tears staining pillows as he whispered Ursula's name like a prayer. Frederick buried his grief in investigation, his private detectives peeling back layers of the scandal with surgical efficiency. Whispers led to payoffs. A photographer bribed for those damning shots. Tabloid editors greased by anonymous wires, traced to offshore accounts. The trail snaked upward, coiling around Richard Ellis, the ambitious board member whose smiles hid daggers. Richard, with his slick hair and sharper ambitions, had seen Frederick's vulnerability as opportunity, a way to force a resignation, claim the CEO throne amid the chaos of poor judgment. Proof mounted like a noose. Emails hacked from Richard's server, revealing his orchestration, leaks to Victoria for amplification, fabricated sources spinning Ursula as a predator. Hit him where it hurts, the kid in the heart, one message sneered. Frederick confronted him in the boardroom at dawn, the city awakening below as guards flanked the doors. Richard's face blanched, denials crumbling under the weight of evidence. It was for the company, he stammered, sweat beading on his brow. You're distracted, Frederick. Unfit. But the arrest came swiftly, handcuffs clicking as police escorted him out, flashes from waiting media ironic justice for the man who'd wielded them as weapons. With Richard's fall, the truth cascaded. Press retractions, stocks rebounding, Victoria's calls going unanswered as her complicity surfaced in the periphery. Yet victory tasted ashes without Ursula. Frederick's investigators turned to her trail. Bus tickets queried. Volunteer networks probed. A hit. A small children's center in a Rust Belt town 3 states away, where a blonde woman matching her description aided traumatized kids with art and stories. She's there, the report confirmed. A grainy photo capturing her mid-laugh with a group of children. Soap bubbles glinting in the air. Frederick's heart raced as he chartered a jet that very afternoon, Oliver bundled beside him. The boy's eyes wide with fragile hope. Is it her, Dad? Will she come back? Oliver clutched a handmade card, crayoned bubbles swirling around stick figures labeled Us. The flight was tense. Frederick rehearsing words that could mend the rift. Oliver fidgeting with excitement, laced with fear. They landed under leaden skies, renting a nondescript car to blend into the modest streets. The center was a weathered brick building, playground swings creaking in the wind, laughter spilling from open windows. Peering through a classroom door, Frederick's breath caught. There she was, Ursula, in faded jeans and a paint-smeared shirt, her blonde hair tied back, kneeling amid a circle of children. She blew bubbles, their iridescent spheres drawing gasps and reaching from tiny hands. Her voice a soothing cadence as she wove tales of resilience. Oliver pressed against the glass, whispering, "It's her!" Frederick knocked softly, the room falling silent as Ursula looked up, color draining from her face. "Frederick! Oliver!" Her voice cracked, a mix of joy and terror. The children stared, curious whispers rippling. She excused herself, stepping into the hallway, arms crossed like a shield. "How did you find me?" "Does it matter?" Frederick replied, his tone urgent yet gentle. "Ursula, we know the truth. Richard Ellis, he engineered it all. Arrested this morning, your name's cleared. The headlines are turning." She shook her head, eyes glistening. "It's not just that. The damage. To Oliver, to you. I couldn't stay and watch it destroy everything." Oliver stepped forward, holding out his card. "I missed you. Please come back. We need you." His voice trembled, small hands shook. Ursula knelt, pulling him into a hug, tears spilling. "Oh, champ. I missed you too, every day." She looked up at Frederick, vulnerability raw. "But what now? I can't go back to being the scandal." Frederick crouched beside them, his hand on her shoulder. "Not as before. I've been thinking, your dream, the daycare. What if we make it bigger? A foundation. For kids like Oliver, traumatized, overlooked. Tech from my company, apps for emotional tracking, virtual therapy. But led by you, your heart, your bubbles. Little Hearts Foundation. Help me build it." Her eyes widened, a spark igniting amid the doubt. "Me? Lead? Frederick, I'm no executive. Just a cleaner with big ideas." "Exactly," he countered, intensity burning. "Experts failed Oliver. You succeeded. Imagine, centers nationwide, training for teachers, support for families. Oliver needs you. I need you. Not just for him, but us." The hallway seemed to shrink, the weight of possibility pressing in. Children peeked from the door, one blowing a bubble that floated between them, popping softly. Ursula wiped her tears, glancing at the kids she'd helped here, temporary solace in her exile. "If I say yes, no more running?" "No more," Frederick promised, his hand finding hers. Oliver beamed, the card pressed into her palm. "Family," she nodded, a tentative smile breaking through. "Family." They embraced, the three of them a tangled knot of relief and renewal, the center's walls echoing with the children's cheers as Oliver shared the news. As they boarded the jet homeward, Ursula gazed out at the receding town, heart swelling with purpose. The Foundation's blueprint unfolded in hushed conversations, grants, programs, and a launch event to rally support. Yet challenges loomed. Board resistance post-Richard, media scrutiny lingering like fog. But in that airborne cocoon, hope soared. The reunion was a bridge rebuilt, leading to a declaration that would seal their bond forever, under spotlights, where words and hearts aligned. The airborne cocoon of the jet carried them homeward, the hum of engines a steady underscore to the burgeoning blueprint of the Little Hearts Foundation. Ursula leaned back in the leather seat, Oliver dozing against her shoulder, his small hand clutching the crayoned card as if it were a lifeline. Frederick sat across, sketches on a tablet, logos of intertwined bubbles, program outlines blending tech innovations with heartfelt therapies. "We'll start small," he said, his voice alive with purpose. "A launch event in a month. Investors, educators, families. Your speech at the center, Ursula. Your story will draw them in." She hesitated, green eyes flickering with doubt. "My story? Frederick, I'm no speaker. What if I freeze? Or worse, remind them I'm just the cleaning lady from the headlines?" He reached over, squeezing her hand. "That's your strength. Authenticity. We've cleared the scandal. Now we build something unbreakable." Oliver stirred then, murmuring in sleep, "Mom." The word hung, unspoken yet profound, seeding the declaration to come. The weeks blurred into a frenzy of preparation, the penthouse transforming into a command center. Blueprints covered tables, calls to donors echoed through halls, and Oliver helped by drawing bubble motifs on every scrap of paper. Ursula dove in, her ideas blooming. Sensory rooms with bubble machines for calming, apps tracking emotional triggers via wearable tech, workshops training teachers in empathy over diagnostics. Frederick marveled at her instinct, the way she turned his corporate resources into tools for healing. Board resistance simmered, whispers of risky pivot post-Richard, but Frederick quashed them with data. Early pilots in shelters showed promise, kids like Oliver responding to the blend of heart and innovation. Launch day arrived under a crisp blue sky, the grand ballroom of a downtown hotel alive with anticipation. 300 guests milled, suited investors rubbing elbows with wide-eyed educators, families with children bearing scars of loss, journalists scribbling notes. The room pulsed with energy, tables adorned with bubble jars, walls projecting holographic spheres, a stage flanked by banners reading, "Little Hearts, see every child." Backstage, Ursula paced in a tailored navy suit, script clutched like a shield, her blonde waves pinned elegantly. Nerves coiled in her stomach, a whirlwind of imposter syndrome. What if they laugh? Or walk out? Frederick appeared, steadying her with a touch. "They'll listen, because it's you." Oliver peeked from behind, tuxedo-clad, a mischievous grin hiding his butterflies. "You'll be great, Ursula, like magic." The MC introduced her to thunderous applause, the crowd a sea of expectant faces. Ursula stepped to the podium, heart hammering, the spotlight hot on her skin. "Good evening," she began, voice wavering before steadying like a bubble finding its float. "A year ago, I was mopping floors in a lobby, invisible to the world rushing by. Then a little boy had a meltdown, and I blew bubbles to calm him. That boy is Oliver Langston, and those bubbles changed everything." The room hushed, hooked by her raw opening. She wove her tale, the foster care scars shaping her empathy, the lost pregnancy that taught her grief's depth, the accident stealing Elena, but not hope. "Children aren't problems to fix," she declared, passion rising. "Their hearts need presence. Little Hearts isn't about gadgets or degrees, though we'll use both. It's about seeing the storm in a child's eyes and sitting in it with them. Bubbles, hugs, tech that listens. For every Oliver out there, we'll build sanctuaries where differences are strengths, where trauma doesn't define destiny." Tears glistened in the audience, mothers nodding, investors shifting uncomfortably, then applauding. Ursula's words crescendoed. "I lost a child once. Thought love was too risky. But Oliver showed me it's worth the pop. Join us in this revolution. Every little heart deserves to soar." The ovation erupted, standing waves crashing as she stepped back, cheeks flushed, relief flooding her. But the drama peaked when Oliver darted on stage, unscripted, grabbing the microphone with determined hands. The crowd quieted, charmed by the boy's earnest face. "Hi, everyone," he said, voice piping through the speakers. "I'm Oliver. My mom went to heaven in a car crash. I was sad a lot and had bad days, but Ursula came with bubbles and made me laugh again. She taught me it's okay to feel big things." He turned to her, eyes shining. "Dad, can I call her mom now? Please." The room held its breath, a collective gasp rippling. Ursula covered her mouth, tears streaming as Frederick ascended the stage, his own eyes misting. He knelt beside Oliver, microphone in hand. "Buddy, that's between you and Ursula. But if she says yes, our family would be complete." Oliver faced her, small but resolute. "Will you be my mom for real?" Time suspended, the ballroom a frozen tableau. Ursula knelt, pulling him close. "Yes, sweetheart, the greatest honor of my life." Cheers exploded, applause thundering as they embraced, Frederick joining. The three a tearful huddle under the lights. Cameras flashed, capturing the raw declaration. Headlines shifting from scandal to triumph. Langston family healed by bubbles and love. In the afterglow, as guests mingled and pledges poured in, the foundation secured its future. Yet, this public anointing deepened their private bond, a family forged in vulnerability. Whispers of forever lingered, leading to a proposal where beginnings circled back, in a closet of memories, bubbles, and unbreakable ties. The unbreakable ties forged in that spotlight declaration wove tighter in the months that followed. The Little Hearts Foundation blossoming like a garden from seeds of shared pain and purpose. Ursula moved seamlessly into her role, her days a whirlwind of site visits to new centers, collaborations with educators on bubble-infused therapy modules, and evenings filled with Oliver's homework, and Frederick's stolen glances across dinner tables laden with takeout and laughter. The scandal's scars faded under the glow of success, donations pouring in, media pivoting to heartwarming features on the Bubble family. Yet, beneath the bustle, a quiet yearning built in Frederick, to make their bond eternal, not just in hearts, but in vows. Whispers of forever culminated in a plan as whimsical as their origin, circling back to where it all began. 6 months post-launch, on a crisp spring afternoon, Frederick lured Ursula to the Langston Tower under the guise of foundation paperwork. The elevator descended to the basement levels. Her curiosity piqued as he led her through dimly lit corridors, lined with humming servers and storage rooms. "Frederick, if this is about budgets, I swear I'm not approving more holographic bubbles," she teased, her hand in his, blonde waves bouncing with each step. He chuckled, stopping before a nondescript door labeled supply closet. "Not budgets, something better." Pushing it open, Ursula gasped. The cramped space, once her domain of mops and cleaners, had been transformed. Strings of fairy lights draped like stars, casting a soft glow on rose petals, scattered across the concrete floor. The air smelled faintly of lemon soap, a nod to their first magic. In the center, a small, velvet box rested on a makeshift altar of stacked crates, flanked by bottles of bubble solution. "Frederick," she whispered, eyes widening as he closed the door, the world shrinking to just them. "What is this?" He knelt on one knee, the CEO's poise giving way to raw vulnerability, his blonde hair tousled in the dim light. "Ursula Hayes, from the moment you blew those bubbles in the lobby, you didn't just calm Oliver, you awakened me. I was a man entombed in grief and glass towers, forgetting how to live. You brought chaos and joy, turned my penthouse into a home, and my son into a laughing boy. We've built a foundation together, but I want more. A life, a family sealed not by circumstance but choice." Tears welled in her eyes as he opened the box, revealing a ring, a solitaire diamond flanked by 3 tiny sapphires, blue, red, yellow, like Owen's painting of their bubble souls. Will you marry me? Be my partner in storms and sunshine, bubbles and beyond. Ursula's laugh broke through sobs, a sound of pure, disbelieving joy. In a supply closet? You crazy, wonderful man. She pulled him up, kissing him fiercely, the ring sliding onto her finger like destiny. Yes, 1,000 times yes. But before the moment could settle, a muffled thud echoed from the door. It burst open, and in tumbled Owen, encased in a comically oversized inflatable bubble suit, clear plastic bulging around his small frame, arms flailing like a cartoon character. "Surprise!" he yelped, rolling awkwardly into the pedals. "Dad said to wait, but I heard yes." Ursula burst into laughter, helping him up as Frederick groaned playfully. "Owen! Timing, buddy!" The boy beamed through the plastic, his voice echoing. "I made this with a nanny. Bubble family forever. Group hug?" They obliged, squeezing around the wobbling sphere in a tangled embrace, petals sticking to the plastic, lights twinkling like captured stars. The absurdity cemented it. Theirs was no fairy tale of princes and castles, but one of mops, meltdowns, and unbreakable bubbles. As they emerged, giggling, into the corridor, plans bubbled forth. A wedding themed around their origin, whimsical and true. The big day unfolded in the Foundation's flagship garden, a verdant oasis amid the city sprawl, 6 months hence under a canopy of blooming cherry blossoms. White chairs arched in semicircles, around an altar woven with wildflowers, and dangling glass orbs filled with bubble mix. Guests, an eclectic mix of tech moguls, shelter kids, educators, and families touched by little hearts, filled the seats, chatter mingling with the soft pop of trial bubbles from excited children. Owen, the official bubble bearer, strutted in a tiny tuxedo, a belt of multicolored soap bottles jingling like bells. Frederick stood at the altar, nerves electric beneath his tailored suit, blonde hair catching the sunlight. "What if she changes her mind?" he murmured to his best man, a Foundation colleague. "She won't," came the reassurance. "Look." The music swelled. Not a march, but a gentle acoustic rendition of a lullaby Ursula had sung to Oliver on stormy nights. Heads turned as she appeared at the garden's edge, radiant in a flowing white gown of simple chiffon, sleeves fluttering like wings. No veil obscured her face, just a crown of daisies woven by Owen. Her shoes? White sneakers, laces painted in bubble hues by the boy himself. She walked the aisle alone, pausing to blow bubbles from jars lining the path, spheres floating skyward like released dreams. Guests murmured in delight, some dabbing eyes, the blend of elegance and whimsy encapsulating their story. Frederick's breath caught, tears pricking as she reached him, her green eyes locking on his. "You look like home," he whispered. The officiant, a judge who'd overseen Owen's adoption papers months prior, smiled warmly. "Dearly beloved, we gather not just for vows, but to celebrate a family born from kindness in a lobby storm." Readings followed, a child from the Foundation reciting a poem on healing hearts, Owen sharing a bubble-blowing demo that drew laughs. Vows came, raw and profound. Frederick first. "Ursula, you taught me love isn't control, it's presence in chaos. I vow to stand with you through pops and floats, to cherish our unconventional magic, to be the father and husband you both deserve." Ursula's voice trembled but held. "Frederick, you gave me family when I thought it lost. I vow to fill our days with laughter, to weather scandals and successes, to blow bubbles in every storm. Owen, my heart son, you're our greatest gift." Rings exchanged, simple bands etched with tiny bubbles, as Owen stepped forward, blowing a massive iridescent sphere that hovered above them. "Make a wish," he commanded. They closed their eyes, the bubble popping in a shower of mist to cheers. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the judge declared. Kiss amid the bubbles. As their lips met, guests released a cascade of spheres from provided wands. The garden, transforming into a floating wonderland. Iridescent orbs drifting like living confetti. Owen danced around them, popping and blowing, his joy infectious. The reception spilled into twilight. Cake topped with edible bubbles, dances under string lights, toasts raising glasses to the family that started with soap. As sunset painted the sky in blue, red, and yellow streaks, Ursula, Frederick, and Owen slipped away to a quiet bench, watching bubbles merge with the stars. We did it, Ursula murmured, head on Frederick's shoulder. Owen nestled between. We found our forever, he replied, kissing her temple. The garden's magic lingered, a testament to love's resilience, from lobby miracle to vows sealed in whimsy. Their story, unconventional and profound, promised endless horizons, one bubble at a time. What did you think of Ursula, Frederick, and Oliver's journey from a lobby miracle to a bubble-filled forever? Share your thoughts in the comments, rate their story from 0 to 10, and let us know where you're joining us from. Thank you for being part of their heartfelt tale. Your presence makes it soar. Until our next story, keep blowing bubbles and chasing dreams.